red versus blue. Don't really need these. So the world's on fire, and my idea is to instill wisdom. That way people may better find common ground and we can stop working against each other. Also, I want to, through good and prayer, take down yellow journalism, which is basically when the media is okay with lying. Mainstream media has enabled us, has figured out how to monopolize our attention, and that's, in my opinion, worse than selling us gossip. Because when you live in America in this day and age, if you have any sort of money, there's just a wealth of things you can do. You know, take your pet for a walk, listen to music from all over the world, watch movies from all over the world, read literature from all over the world, from all of time. And there's just really no excuse not to find happy. There's not, being spoiled, I guess is a better way to put it, is such a tragedy in this day and age. And saying you don't have anything to do, or saying you're bored, or just spending all of your time each day, watching porn. So let's start with today's episode. I also upload an article with each episode, so in case somebody wants to read and they're not really someone who listens. So, okay, let's start. If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. Mark 3:24. Now, there's also this great scene from Pollyanna, the Disney movie. If you have Disney Plus, you can look it up. Actually, let me look up the time code for that, because I bet a lot of you guys do have Disney Plus. I'll be right back. Okay, so it's at 1 hour 33 of Pollyanna, where there's a pastor that she's talking to. And this pastor gives us real fire and brimstone sort of messages. They're real like, raw, God is angry and wrathful. And it's really sitting ill with the town. And Pollyanna, who was a minister's daughter, tells him that her father had a similar issue until he found a quote by Abraham Lincoln. And it said, "If you look for the bad in mankind, you'll surely find it," which I kind of interpreted the wrong way. You could also say, if you look for the bad in mankind, surely you will find it. So if you look for the bad and look for the evil, it's always going to be there. Kind of like homelessness. There's always going to be poverty in the world, and you can fret about it, or you can do something about it, or you can do something about something that adds meaning to your life and affects the kingdom of earth. Because ultimately we were sent here to co-rule with God. There's a lot of times he leaves us alone, there's a lot of times he works with us, but earth largely is left under our domain. And that call to power and authority is your Christian spirit desiring to rule and lead and command. And so you have to find what you want to lead and command. So let's get into today's podcast. We'll continue. I guess we've already started. So, unlike a lot of other countries, we actually have we have a few political parties, but really it comes down to two. We have the Democrats and the Republicans, or the liberals and conservative. I know there's libertarian and authoritarian, but we're going to focus on the liberals and conservatives. Now, liberal a lot of the lifestyle is called laissez-faire, and laissez-faire definition. Laissez-faire means like let things take their own course. And so that's kind of the blue side. Democrat liberal is blue traditionally, and Democrat or Republican conservative is red. So a lot of blue, being from LA for half of my life, and then Texas for the last 15 years, I've gotten to see both. And one of the things about live and let live, or laissez-faire lifestyle, is you kind of do whatever you want. And the failure of that is if you have a little bit of wisdom, you try to apply that wisdom, but that's not always a good action to take. Right now we're seeing people who want to affect change, and they're doing it by burning things down and murder. We're also seeing people who are affecting change by peacefully protesting, and that's perfect. That's what Martin Luther King was all about. Peaceful protest, fantastic. Voting, fantastic. Working hard, fantastic. Murder and looting and riot, theft and murder and wrath, bad. And that can be one of the downsides of laissez-faire. You know, you see, I don't know how many of my classmates I saw that would just spend their weekends smoking. So I went to college in my later years. I actually just graduated last year. And it was very interesting to be a full grown-up and kind of see this horrible juxtaposition in what people were saying and doing. Because if you have all weekend to smoke pot, you have all weekend to make peanut butter jelly sandwiches and water for the homeless, you have all weekend to clean up a park, or, you know, I had a friend in Tyler. He was awesome. He was going to school to be a surgeon, and he would sign up for the Mercy ships, which, in case you don't know, are a bunch of people get together on these cruise ships, right? Because cruise companies will lend out their ships because they get a tax write-off. Because there's seasons when the cruise ships aren't doing anything and just sitting there, so they'll lend them out, get a tax write-off, and then the nonprofit charity gets to use them. And so he goes on the ship and goes down to Africa and does surgery on the local kids in the area. And I'm like, you can do that, but instead you're spending the whole weekend smoking pot. And how does that help anybody? You could do art, you could write music. In the 80s and 90s, everyone wanted to start a band. Everyone wanted to be in a band. And the hardest thing is you couldn't afford the equipment, you couldn't afford the time, the studio time, the editing equipment, and now everything's digital and everything can go on YouTube, and you know, you get 100,000 fans to buy one track, and you and your band have a career now. Like, life couldn't be better. And instead people want to focus on parts of problems that aren't even real. Like, anyways, I'm getting off track. I'm just very sad that things got so cool with the internet, and we're going to space, and we teleported to molecule, and we're 3D printing organs, and people are still mad. It's like, you can always affect change, but don't lose yourself to wrath and chaos. Because if you burn down your house, you have to build a new one before you can do anything else. You're literally making more work and consuming your limited lifespan. So there's laissez-faire, where people want to do what they want, and there's conservative, where people want to hold on to traditional values. The good part about being liberal is you're open to new ideas. The good part about being conservative is you tend to be doing things that have been done before, so they're more reliable. So I always thought Republicans and Democrats would differ, but it turns out they don't. A Democrat just wants to take kind of everyone's wealth and share it, so that way the poor get uplifted. And the conservative want to be wise in their savings and would rather teach a poor person skills and help assist them in getting their life on track. Both have a lot of merit. The problem is their execution. Let's see where I wrote down the quotes. Universal freedom. Oh, here we go. So when you use the government to do things like feed the poor, it turns out it doesn't work out all that well. Basically, for every dollar you spend, 20 cents actually goes to the poor who need it. That's a big deal. That means for every $5 we give the government, $1 is effective. I believe it was Ben Shapiro who said, the government is the DMV, free market is Amazon. So we can see the difference. A conservative will gladly give his church money to feed the poor. And I know a lot of people don't believe that happens, but as somebody who's gone to church most of my entire life, I was involved in those things where we fed the poor. I saw the storerooms full of food. My friend was asked to help pass out food. I went to poor neighborhoods and passed out food. I did car washes where we didn't charge money, but just wanted to show people that God was good and merciful by doing a generous act. Etc., etc. And that's really meaningful because as the Nobel Prize winner Milton Friedman says, spending isn't good. What's good is producing. What we want to have is more goods and services. So as I explained it, money is the magnetism that kind of attracts stuff. You know, I will trade money for that. If that's not enough, I will trade more money for that. But it's not the money that we need, it's the stuff. The stuff is the wealth. The money is just what pulls it and pushes it around. So when you take money away from groups of people who would use it in business to make more and more and more and more, that's a very good thing in economics. And this ultimately shows that I'm sorry, I'm kind of like expounding. This is stuff I like to dive into. What I'm trying to say is both of you want to feed the poor. One of you wants to use the government. One of you wants to do it himself or use church. It's a big difference. And what I like about the church is the church will say, did anything happen in your past? Is there anything I can pray for you for? Let's see if we can get you out of this hellhole. Let's see if we can get you off drugs. Let's see if we can heal your mental illness problems. Let's see if we can combat your depression and anxiety. Let's see if we can help you find a car. Maybe someone has a cheap car. Let's see if we can get you some clothes. Let's see if we can get you that job. Do you have that job? And then they check up with you. You're going to come to men's meeting on Thursday? Because, we're going to make sure you're not drinking. We're going to make sure you don't slip back into your old ways. We're going to make sure you're doing well with your wife. You're doing well with the kids, that, you're staying sober. You're getting up. It's like people who go to church like this sort of stuff. They'll call you in the morning to make sure you're up for your job. And that's the commonality, and that's what I'm trying to say. That's the apex where I said it really well right up here. Let's see if I can find it again. Man, I wrote I was trying to write an article. I figured it'd be like a quarter of a page. It ended up being like 5 pages long, but I'm proud of it. I can't find it, but let me tell you some funny stories. And I promise that future episodes will have a better format. Since this is my first one on the website, I did some in the past, but this is like this is me kind of rebooting my website. Apparently it was pretty sucky. So my friend helped me kind of tighten it up. But here's a really good story on how somebody who's a bit more red now, was able to talk to somebody from my art class who's very, very blue. Oh my God. Our students are so blue that when you say anything red, they freak out and scream. making a scene is apparently a defense mechanism employed by the laissez-faire outgoing people. Anyways, I was leaving art class with a classmate, and she goes, what does she say? I hate how, I wrote it down. Oh, here we go. I hate how Trump supporters don't care about the environment. And me, I love to argue and debate like you wouldn't believe. So I immediately insert myself. I go, what do you mean? And she goes, well, they don't care about the environment at all. It's like, no, everyone cares about the environment. She's like, no, they don't even believe in climate change. I'm like, well, it seems to coincidentally come up during election time pretty reliably. And it's not that we don't believe in it, but there's just, anyways, what's up? And she was just very upset. And I was like, look. Everybody cares about the environment. Nobody says like we want to see Earth burn. But we don't want to spend $3 trillion trying to fix it when there's science that seems to be able to now take CO2 out of the atmosphere. There is a thing on TED Talk where a third of Earth is desertified, like the vegetation has died, and we've recently figured out how to bring the vegetation back. And if we bring the vegetation back, we'll be able to bring the pollution levels down to pre-industrial era. So, that's kind of what's up, and and so the lights turned on in her head because finally someone was listening to her dutifully, taking her seriously, being honest and kind, and then like hearing her out and then arguing with her where she wanted to be argued, which is, do you care or not? What can we actually do about it? And then she had another point, which is funny. She's like, and then, nobody's recycling. And I said, well, you don't really need to recycle glass because it's sand. And you don't really need to recycle paper because I think they use bleach, which is like, eh. She goes, yeah, but we're cutting down the trees. And I said, well, we don't, but we cut down paper trees on paper farms. And like, eyes wide, and as she like took in this knowledge for the first time, like, what do you think we do? Like, went to the rainforest to get paper? Like, that'd be really expensive, and that'd be bad for the rainforest. Like, everyone loves the rainforest. Like, there's a lot more trees on Earth now because we planted a bunch of trees because we cut them down for paper. And then we plant trees back, and she wasn't such a pessimistic hard ass after that, and I was glad to have helped in facilitating that change. There was one more time. Oh, we argued about power too. I was like, there's also nuclear power, which is good for the environment, but people are afraid to have it because of Chernobyl, but it's still pretty incredibly safe. And she's like, yeah, well, I just don't trust it either. I'm like, well, then we get to use coal. And she's like, well, I don't want to use coal. I'm like, well, then we can invent new stuff. It's going to take time. She's like, I don't like that either. I'm like, we have to make a choice because you're in charge. Like, you can't just daydream. Oh, here's another good one. Okay, so Republicans and Democrats don't tend to disagree straight on. They just tend to like, one wants this and one wants that, and sometimes they don't push against each other as much as they think. Like, California wants free college. Okay, you're going to have to take money from everyone. That's not always good. You want to take as little from people as possible because the the economy spins better that way. You can argue that everyone having an education would be really good, but then you could argue that giving the government the money to have people get free college doesn't mean they're going to kind of like dig into your pocket pretty deep and waste a ton of the money. Like, oh, to get everyone free college, we obviously need like new computers. And it's like, for video games, like, and then a Republican might say like, I'm good for you getting college if you want to be an engineer, but I don't want to be taxed because you're going to get a gender study degree, which doesn't produce a a large amount of goods and services again. Like, that, you could say that kind of helps, but you could really say that kind of helps maybe. Whereas an engineering degree or an engineering degree in renewable power, might get you a bit farther. And here's something else that I tell a lot of liberal people. I'm like, one, the government's pretty ineffective, and once you give it money, you're not going to really get it back, because how often are taxes cut? But if you go up to anybody, and you say, I want $20 to feed the poor, a lot of people are going to tell you yes. And if you go up to someone rich, and like, when I started my nonprofit, I think it was like $150 to start it, to register it, and I can take tax deductible donations. Get your nonprofit, dedicate your nonprofit to feeding the poor, right? Mine's dedicated towards social media ministries. And then go up to anybody that's rich and say, hey, I want $50, just the number that you know you can get, to be like $20, $50. I want $25 to, I'd like 50, but I want $25 to feed the poor. And the guy's gonna be like, really? $25? Like, I could afford $25. Give me $25, you film it, put it up on YouTube, like show yourself making peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or cooking something from your favorite show, make some food from a sci-fi show you like, make make chocolate cake that you saw on Firefly, something, and then feed it to the poor. Go to Sam's Club, get little boxes, like, here you go, Mr. Poor, here's some vitamin water, and some food, and some cake, and you just fed $25. God, if you fed it with a Mexican, I'm pretty sure my mom could feed like 40 people with $25, because my mom is crazy insane with her Mexican powers, half Mexican. And then bam, you do that, and you go up to him, and he's like, hey, see all these people I fed? And be like, oh boy, you sure did. You used your free time, you used my money, and you fed the poor. And you go like, do you have 2 friends that might want to give me $20? Be like, okay. Now you have $60. Do it again, go back, you're like, I just fed, 30 people in Austin. Each of you guys have 2 more friends, and they might give you $100. People have an instinct to help each other, and a lot of Christians tithe too. A lot of Christians give 10% of their income before taxes to churches to like do stuff, to plant good, wholesome culture. And this is my point. Laissez-faire can be really bad too. I had a friend, my roommate's cousin had a friend that he would bring over when he was in, and they were in high school. I should have been going to college, but I wasn't going to college. My roommate was going to college, and his cousin and his friend were in high school. And so they would come over a lot because we had an apartment, and so he didn't have to be at home. And it turns out she was getting high all the time. I think she was like 15. I think she was getting high and getting drunk all the time. And that's one of my problems with laissez-faire is I had people from that high school try to sell me drugs, and I realized they were using like a friendship to try and get me to buy them so they could make money. And I was like, holy cow, this is one of the horrible things about do whatever is it can lead you to this path of laziness, and you can end up with friends who don't tell you no. And that's one of my big fears. If your friend doesn't tell you no, it's not your friend. You don't have a friend. That's one of my problems actually, is I'm very responsible. I've told one of my friends she was going to cheat on her boyfriend with an exchange student, and I said, you can cheat on your boyfriend, but I'm going to be your friend. You can break up with your boyfriend. You can break up with your boyfriend after, but you have to break up with your boyfriend, or at least tell him, or I'm not going to be your friend because I live in the real world. And trying to think of what else I kind of want to share. Where was I going with this? So anyways, there's just a lot of places we can come together. Like, we both want to feed the poor. Americans just don't want to or conservatives just don't want to have the government do it, because they're going to waste a ton of money, and they might not even do it well. And like, when a church does it, they try to make sure the guy becomes self-stable, and that's much more important. Is there anything else I want to talk about? Oh, here's something interesting that I put in the article. So in current politics, everything's about crime and racism, right? And a lot of people want money for more cops to like keep crime down and stuff. But what's interesting is what's called crime prevention programs, which is like after school sports. Like free dance classes, just things to help keep people preoccupied and not just giving people things to do other than join gangs and do drugs and follow a life of crime. So these type of programs can reduce violence by 15% in as little as 6 months, and street outreach and interruption strategies reduce shootings and killings by 40 to 70%. And just for some more brain food, a society that aims for equality before liberty will end up with neither equality nor liberty. Milton Friedman, who was the Nobel Prize winner for economics. So I'll kind of leave you guys with that today. If you want to do something meaningful in life, stop trying to get the government to do it for you. The government's not your friend. It's a very inefficient system designed to protect us and sometimes facilitate what we're trying to do. If you feel a compelling spirit towards such acts of benevolence towards your fellow humans, then we need you to do it. We need you to insert yourself into whatever it is you feel a calling towards. I like to argue, and I like wisdom, and I like philosophy. So I'm your Christian philosopher who's treating the Bible as a code of a samurai. Try to get along with each other and see what we can't accomplish with each other. And always, always, always look at what the other side is saying, because they might surprise you. I had a friend who was one of the art classmates, I think it was the same girl, was upset that SeaWorld had killer whales. I was like, well, what do you want? And she's like, well, they should be free. I'm like, yeah, they should be free, but there are only like 3 of them there. She's like, well, it's not fair. I'm like, okay, well, it's not fair, but SeaWorld brings awareness and grows a cultural love for wildlife and ocean life. I think it raises millions of dollars to protect sea animals each year. So if we took away the killer whales, more killer whales would die. And she's like, well, that's not fair. I'm like, yeah, but do you want 3 to be a little miserable in their cages, or do you want like 50 to 500 to die? Like, those are your options. And this is the real world, so sometimes this one might be better. You know, just 3 versus how many? So listen to the other side of the argument, always. When I was a kid, the Jehovah's Witnesses would come around and they would talk to my dad, and my neighbor who was Christian wouldn't let her daughters listen, but my parents would let me listen and my sister listen, because they said it's good for Josh to ask questions. It's good for Josh to know, so he can look stuff up and think and ask questions. And they were right. and they're right. If you ever feel yourself getting angry in an argument, it means you've lost and you don't know what you're talking about anymore. There are two things to do. There are two things to do always when you get angry in an argument. Tell them you want to come back to it later, because obviously you either don't know the subject matter well enough to argue about it, or they've proven they might be right. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather be correct than right. I don't care if I'm wrong. Being wrong is for weirdos. Like, the fear of being wrong is like, I don't get that. But I was homeschooled for the first 10 years, and we didn't have a stigma against being ignorant and being wrong. Like, if you're ignorant on something or you're wrong, you just ask questions and you learn. When I was in film school, I didn't know what the number on a lens meant, and everyone's like, how could you not know? You're in film school. I was like, yeah, I'm in film school because I don't know. And they kept making fun of me. I'm like, you make fun of me all you want. Like, it doesn't change that I don't know, and I'm still going to ask the question because I want to know, because I paid $300 for this class, so that teacher works for me. And they all got upset, but I didn't care. So yes, try to get along, because, as I said in the beginning, a kingdom divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand, and we're seeing that in America. We can't be divided, and I want to call us Americans. I don't want to call us Republicans, and I don't want to call us Democrats. I want to call us Americans, and then you can tell me what your issues are, because no matter where you stand, there's a scattering of issues, and we got to stop letting yellow journalism monopolize our time, because we're worth more than that. It's disgusting, the gossip that they're ruining our world on. Like, it's almost demonic. Anyways, I love you guys. Oh, we gotta pray. Gotta pray. Praying is really important. I don't know if you know that. Like, seriously, pick a friend, pick any friend, and start praying for them, and then watch their life improve according to what your prayer is. And then keep it up and be really surprised. Like, I got one of my friends off alcohol and drugs. I never thought she'd be off alcohol and drugs. She's off alcohol and drugs, and she's like all happy and like dating a really cool guy now, and is really cool and healthy, and her facial complexion's all like happy and clean, and the stress knot muscles on her face have all relaxed. And where is my prayer list? Okay, God, we come before you, oh my God, and we want to pray for the chaos in America, that you would send out your angels en masse and chill everything out. And we pray for our president, because whether you guys like him or not, he's our president. We need to pray that he gets awesome, is awesome, and acts awesome, because leader of the free world. Pray for President Trump, that you would continue to support him and guide him and give him wisdom and health and happiness and hoorah, that he'd be wise and articulate and intelligent and decisive and just everything. Healthy and happy and stable and secure and understanding what's going on. His relationship with his wife would be strong and good. His family would be strong and good. And we pray for the politicians, that you would weed out all the corruption. All of it. There's so much corruption. Weed it out. God, just start tearing it out. And let us see justice done. And let us see your hand at work and goodness happen. And then we pray for China, for like the evil in China to be brought out and purged, and the good in China to flourish, and the citizens of China to find hope and happiness with you, God. We know there's a big Christian movement over there right now. For Hong Kong, we pray that you watch over them, because they're all waving American flags and they're all worshiping you, which means you're head of the household, and we need to watch over them, Father, and give them all the strength of the world. Excuse me, I haven't slept yet. And for the judges in America, God, that you weed out corruption and allow smart stuff to happen. I pray about abortion. I know people are going to have different opinions on it, but even if we were to allow it, it is way too high. So help us come to a conclusion on what to do about abortion. Pray for India, that you stop China from invading it, and that you would just cripple its military advancement and just start sowing craziness into it, that just things stop working right all of a sudden. You just stop their advance, God. You just put spikes in all of their machinery and make it all crumble and confuse them, and don't let them work along well together, God, and stop them at its borders or expel them. I haven't caught up on what's going on in that invasion. So much going on. Oh my gosh, I pray for the riots, God, and the homeless and the homeowners and the businesses, that you would come in and handle all this, that all the rioters and looters would see justice, that you would get rid of these sissy governors that seem to just let their state burn. Keep us strong and bring us back together, God. Heal us and show us your love. And we started praising what was good, or praising what was bad, and forgot what was good. We consumed copious amounts of porn and drank till we were drunk, and had threesomes and foursomes, like Paul warned us about. And we did drugs like we were warned about. Well, we did a lot of drugs like we were warned about. Like, a little bit of pot isn't actually anti-biblical. Neither is drinking. Getting drunk is. Put us back together, God. Oh, God bless the people that showed up to defend everyone. The weapons and just everything. It was amazing. Yeah. Pray for our lost cousins to the Muslim nation, that they'd convert over to Christianity and find your love and mercy, God, and walk away from their hate and violence. Because you are the true King, the true God. Please show all these liberals that what they're after isn't anything without you, that you are the everything, and that you, God, in case you have forgotten, are the head of America, the head of our households, and the head of us. I kneel before no other God than you. Oh my God, I pray against the gossip that the media is putting out. Oh God, come against the prostitution media and just pull it out like a weed, God. Like, let us have good news and good information, and just pull out all this nonsense like an ugly weed, God, and throw it into the fire. Don't let any of this gossip poison us anymore. In Jesus' name I pray. Take care of all of our friends, their family, and loved ones. Amen. Alright, y'all. Hope you guys liked the episode. I will probably see you next week, or I'll do more articles today. We'll see. But either way, I love you all. Yeah. Have a good Sunday. Don't forget to pray.